And we're back, folks, right here in WrestleRant. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and right here in WrestleRant, I break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network. Today, we're talking 2014's TLC pay-per-view, technically called TLC Tables, Ladders, Chairs, and Stairs, unfortunately, which we'll talk all about in momentarily. So kicking off the show, an amazing match, an amazing ladder match of the Intercontinental Championship. Luke Harper defending against Dolph Ziggler. Now, Luke Harper's reign as champion was horribly booked. When the guy won the belt, I think on the Raw before Survivor Series, I was really excited. I initially thought, and still did think in the months that followed, that they should not have broken up the Wyatt family. Eric Rowan was no better off for it. Luke Harper at first was kind of off to a strong start with the IC title win, but then he would fucking lose every single match that he would have from that point forward, including this match. But it did lead to a great moment with Dolph Ziggler, the hometown hero in Cleveland, Ohio, regaining the gold in an amazing moment. The crowd is very much behind Dolph Ziggler. And it was weird, too, because after, and I'll get back to the match itself in a second, but it was weird, too, because when Ziggler won, Michael Cole on commentary said, "These are the two men that will take us through the future." And it's been almost 2 years since that point. And Luke Harper is just another guy in the roster. He does not feel like the foundation for the future. He should be, but he doesn't. He hasn't really done much of note since then. And then Dolph Ziggler, what else can be said that really hasn't been said already? You know what I mean? He's still around, but he hasn't done anything of note since that point in time. Anyway, as far as the match goes itself, I thought it was a great ladder match. It always feels like whenever the IC Championship specifically is on the line in these type of matches, ladder matches, they're always excellent, and this match was no exception. They really were reckless, I think is the right word to describe this match. Ziggler was bleeding, Harper was bleeding. These guys went really balls to the wall in this match, and I remember Harper specifically, I think it might have been earlier this year, I'm pretty sure it was late 2015, Harper was on Talk Is Jericho with Chris Jericho, and he was talking all about this breakthrough match, because I think he was being told, obviously he was told, that he was losing the title in this match, and he was really pissed off, and he really wanted to prove to the officials in the back, along with Dolph Ziggler, with a chip on his shoulder, that's just kind of the way that he is, that he was worthy of the push that he thought he was deserving of getting, you know what I mean? So they really went all out in this match. They bloodied each other up. They battered each other with ladders, took some crazy ass bumps. Like I said, some reckless points in the match. And it was really the match that should have been the main event. I know Wyatt and Ambrose, and we'll talk about that momentarily, was deserving of that slot initially, but the best match of the entire night, and it's not even close, was this match. And the crowd was into it for their hometown hero. Ziggler winning and regaining the gold was a bit of a surprise. He would lose the belt another fucking 2 weeks later to Bad News Barrett, so that was kind of a waste. But still, the match itself, the match alone, was fantastic and really a showcase of skills, not only for Ziggler, who we already knew was great, but truly for Harper, the best match, best singles match this guy's ever had in this company, and really a coming out party, so to speak, for that guy. For the WWE Tag Team Championships, The Miz and Mizdow, Damien Mizdow defending the gold against the Usos in a comedy match, comedy contest. There really wasn't much more to the match other than that. It was fine, it was well wrestled, but the disqualification, Miz blasts one of the Usos over the head with one of the tag team titles to get himself disqualified. Usos win the match, Miz and Mizdow retain. Kind of a flat finish, kind of an anticlimactic finish, but it was what it was. It kept the feud going, and they would continue their feud through the Royal Rumble. After that, we had the Big Show and Eric Rowan facing off in the infamous Steel Stairs match. So I know I've shit on this match before, and it is not a good match, but I do have to give them credit for trying. It's not Big Show's fault as much as I dislike Big Show. It's not his fault. It's not Rowan's fault. It's Creative's fault for putting them in such a stipulation match that was bound to blow from the get-go. It was fucking awful. Whoever's idea was it to put two giants in a ring with nothing but steel steps deserves to be hit with steel steps themselves. That's how bad this match was. Again, it could have been a lot worse. They tried. But again, it was reckless. Why batter each other? Especially a guy that is almost 45 years old and a giant at that, with giantism. Why batter him with fucking steel steps at that point in his career? When Rowan came spiraling down from the top rope with his steel steps in hand, and Big Show was supposed to move out of the way, and he did, but Rowan accidentally caught part of his hip. I just cringed. It's like, this is not necessary, and you could see the frustration on Big Show's face. It's like, why am I still doing this shit? I'm too old for this shit, you know? It was funny. And then worse yet, Big Show wins. He choke slams him on top of steel steps, knocks him out, and then pins him by trapping him under a set of steel steps. awful. I mean, I guess they quote-unquote protected Eric Rowan, but the whole purpose of this program was to put over the Big Show to set him up to fail in his program of the Roman Reigns. So it did nothing to benefit Eric Rowan whatsoever. I'm not buying the excuse that he benefited from the rub. He was protected in defeat. He lost a rematch the very next night on Raw via pinfall. Clean. Didn't have to cheat. Didn't protect him like they did here. He fucking lost 1, 2, 3. So really, what was the point of that? After that, a tables match, John Cena and Seth Rollins, as always, delivering an excellent match. The stipulation being that if John Cena lost, he would no longer earn the right to contend for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. This was overbooked as usual. I mean, I say excellent just because their chemistry is so good. It's really hard for these two to have a bad match. But when you really think about it, with the overbooked nonsense in this match, it brought back bad memories from that same year, from Extreme Rules that same year. Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. It's always in John Cena matches where you get overbooked nonsense like this bullshit. Not so much anymore, but a lot during 2014 for whatever reason. Anyway, so there was a lot of J&J security. Their presence was strong in this match. Every single time it looked like Cena was closing in on the win, Rollins would pull out with their interference and, score the victory himself, whatever. So again, it's really hard to recap what happened here, but Cena initially put Rollins through the table, but the referee was down, so they didn't see it, and then they would put each other through a table at the same time. So only at that point did the referees come down to dispute the finish and restart the match. Where the hell were these guys 5 minutes earlier? It makes no fucking sense, and it's not one of those, only in wrestling type of thing. No, it's not. It's not one of those, only in wrestling type of things. Not even in wrestling where this shit makes sense. I can see like someone's music playing and then getting distracted, a la Big Show here, when he was about to chokeslam John Cena, then out came Roman Reigns. That I could see as an only in wrestling thing, even that's a bit silly, but that's just fucking stupid. Where were the referees 5 minutes earlier when Cena won the match initially? That made no sense, and that really soured the match for me. Anyway, so like I said, I already kind of spoiled it, but Big Show was he came out to aid Seth Rollins, a fellow Authority member, to victory before the 2014 Superstar of the Year. Remember that and how mad people were that Roman Reigns won that award? I could not give two shits. I was only mad when he won the Rumble. But when he won that award, I could not have cared less. But really, when he won that award, I really felt like that was a turning point in terms of Roman Reigns' popularity. Regardless, so he comes out to a massive pop, takes out Big Show to start that whole little program between those two. And then Cena takes advantage of the interference from Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns knocks out Seth Rollins, who he was supposed to face 3 months earlier at Night of Champions before he got hurt and had the whole hernia surgery, whatever. Cena wins, LOL. And it's John Cena versus Brock Lesnar for the fucking 4th, 5th time, whatever, at Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship. So thankfully that match was changed. Mere weeks ahead of time did they add Seth Rollins to the match and make it the best main roster match of 2015. Thank God, because otherwise we would have been subjected to another boring-ass match between Cena and Brock Lesnar. But anyway, as far as this match goes, overbooked as shit. Enjoyable at times, an excellent in-ring chemistry between Cena and Rollins, but beyond that, overbooked as shit, I think is the best way to describe this match. After that, for the Divas Championship, Nikki Bella taking on AJ Lee. Pretty standard match. The match that we didn't get at Survivor Series, pretty ho-hum match. Nikki Bella wins after spraying something in the face of AJ Lee to retain her title. AJ Lee was off TV for, I think, the next 3 months or so. Rumors ran rampant that she was leaving. She would ultimately leave, of course, right after WrestleMania. But she would resurface right before WrestleMania to take on the Bella Twins once again and rekindle that rivalry. But yeah, the match was all right. Brie Bella not turning on Nikki. This was around the time that Brie, despite being tortured by her sister for almost 4 or 3 months at this point, just teamed with her. She aligned with her for no apparent reason at Survivor Series and just said blood is thicker than water in a pre-match backstage segment, which made absolutely no sense. And by the way, for those curious, that angle was never paid off. Speaking of backstage segments, it's also worth mentioning, Roman Reigns had an interview later on in the night, I think after this match actually, talking about how you would never know because it made no sense and it was really confusing, but declaring his spot, or however we said. I mean, I can't really speak because I can't speak in general. I always botch in the show, but Roman Reigns just butchering his promo in this segment, declaring a spot, and that's the way that I pronounce it, is the way that he said it, declaring his spot in the Royal Rumble match the following month. And he also looked like he forgot his lines too. He stared at the camera for like a solid 5 seconds before saying the Royal Rumble match. or something, whatever he was supposed to say. But it was just so funny. And really the beginning of the end for Roman Reigns. And the whole fucking Cinderella story and all the Jack and the Beanstalk promo and all that bullshit. That was really the beginning of the end for Roman Reigns upon his return to the ring that December. After that, a chairs match between Ryback and Kane. Dull match. No one gave a shit. Ryback was doing the feed me more. Was about to hit him with the clothesline. Kane hit him with a big boot instead. So that was a close and near fall. Other than that, the match was dull. I like Ryback. Thank God he won. But no one gave two shits about this. Speaking of such, Rusev defending his United States Championship against Jack Swagger for what felt like the fucking millionth time. Once again, no one cared. Nobody cares, and nothing else matters. Between Rusev and Jack Swagger. Again, Rusev had destroyed Jack Swagger time and time and time again throughout the summer of 2014. This time was no different. Beating him pretty decisively, too. Crowd could not give two shits about this match. And they seemed to be more distracted by something else going on in the crowd. I could not pick out what it was. Maybe I knew at the time 2 years ago. I don't remember now. I don't remember, but when Rusev had locked in his first accolade of the match, the crowd, pretty much everyone in the crowd was looking towards their right. If you're on the opposite and the hard, if you're like on TV in that hard camera side, they were looking to the right for whatever reason. I don't know why. But even regardless, had that whole incident in the crowd not happened, people still wouldn't have cared about this because we've seen it a million times and no one knew. I mean, everyone knew that Swagger had no chance of winning that title on this show. And then came the main event, a TLC match between Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt. Pretty much a spot fest. I mean, you call the Young Bucks matches spot fest and this and that, X Division matches. This really was a spot fest. They tried hard. There were a lot of cool spots. I enjoyed it. It was a really good match. It was by no means the great match I think a lot of people were hoping for. It kind of felt underwhelming. Specifically the finish, I feel like, is what really soured a lot of people on this match. Was that after Ambrose, a lot like SummerSlam 09 with Jeff Hardy and CM Punk, so Ambrose goes to the top of this, maybe, I don't know, like 20 foot high, but maybe 15 foot high, maybe, if that, I don't know, high ladder, and then delivers a flying elbow off the top, which he'd already done like 4 or 5 times throughout the match. This was nothing new, but he did it to the commentary table, through the commentary table to Bray Wyatt, rolls him in the ring, and then grabs a TV monitor that he teased grabbing earlier on in the matchup, grabs it once, notices it's still plugged in, is about to tug on it again, and when he does, it explodes in his face. And then Bray Wyatt capitalizes. Sister Abigail, 1, 2, 3, Bray Wyatt wins. Making Dean Ambrose looking like the absolute dumbest person in this company. You never want to make your baby faces look this stupid. This made Dean Ambrose look absolutely stupid. Absolutely dumb. Just ridiculously dumb. That's how stupid this finish was. I understand they were grooming Bray Wyatt for a match with Undertaker at WrestleMania, which would come to fruition. I feel like that was really the only reason why he won here, if not Bray Wyatt, or rather, Dean Ambrose really should have won. He was coming off of losses at SummerSlam, at Hell in a Cell. He was made to look like a goof in the Royal Rumble match the following month. He would not win a big pay-per-view match for a long-ass time after this. The guy was a glorified B-plus player, and still, in many ways, still is. But I was disappointed with the fact that Ambrose lost, but especially in the fashion that he lost. It was really embarrassing for a babyface to lose in such a fashion. It's not really any surprise, considering the fact they booked this guy so horribly in the final few months of 2014. For the guy that was really the hottest single star of anyone in the final few months of 2014, what a way to close out the year. A fitting way, supposedly, given how they booked him during that time period, but really ridiculously dumb. So again, a good match, but really just mostly spots and nothing else more. And it didn't help either that a lot of these matches were... The fact that this is the issue with TLC pay-per-views. And I was at 2015's installments. I'll talk about that in my next and final WrestleRant edition. I'll expand on that in a second. But I feel like the issue with these shows is that by the main event's TLC match, you have grown so numb to these fucking spot fests and these chairs matches, ladder matches, and all this other shit that by the time the main event comes, you've already seen it all, and the crowd didn't care. That was the issue here. So that was really the theme of the show. They call it the Demolition Derby, but it's just, I don't like this pay-per-view. I was there in 2015. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I thought it was an awesome experience. But the pay-per-view itself, or at least this one, I'll talk about 2015 in my next edition, but this one was really a dull show and very disappointing compared to other installments. I loved the 2010, 2011, 2012 shows, all of which I reviewed a couple of years ago. The 2013 show is pretty much along the same lines as this one. This one might have been slightly better, but it was still pretty anticlimactic. So overall, I think the show peaked really with the opener. Ziggler and Harper had one of the best matches of the year in the opener. And then it was all downhill from there. The tag team title match, forgettable. Big Show and Eric Rowan, deplorable. Cena and Rollins, overbooked as shit. Nikki Bella and AJ Lee, whatever. Ryback and Kane, whatever. Rusev and Jack Swagger, whatever. And the main event wasn't what it should have been. It was really, people were holding out for that saving grace of the show, the main event, but it wasn't. It was a good match, but by no means a classic. So, obviously, if anything, check out the opener, Harper and Ziggler in the ladder match from the show. Otherwise, this is not a must-see show by any means by watching it in its entirety. So as I alluded to, my next edition of WrestleRant will be the final one of 2016, just because we are taking a break from the show for the month of December before we come back with all new episodes at the onset of 2017. And by that point, instead of 2 editions a week, it'll be 1. Just because I'm switching up the whole upload schedule on YouTube. Everything is being affected by this. Everything is being affected. So just keep an eye out for that, and that will be starting at the onset of 2014. But we are not done yet. As I said, 1 more episode of WrestleRant to go before we are done for 2016. It will be covering TLC 2015, which is a great pay-per-view to end on. Not because it was an amazing event, but just because I was there. And honestly, I have yet to rewatch it. I rewatched parts of it. I think I rewatched the ladder match at the end, like a couple days after the show. But other than that, I have not yet rewatched this entire show, the show in its entirety, or really any other show, any other part of the show other than the opener. So I can't wait to talk about that in my next edition of WrestleRant, giving an all-new perspective on the show and being there, and also rewatching it back on TV to see how we kind of came off on the network. So in the meantime, and in between time, guys, as always, be sure to follow me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook. Give the pod channel a thumbs up at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews, and also right here on YouTube by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. So as always, guys, your support is amazingly appreciated. Be well. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch you fine folks down the road.